How do you decide whether to live in Burlingame or Hillsborough? I'll show you how they compare in terms of housing costs, amenities, and lifestyle. Hillsborough is known for its beautiful landscapes and prestigious, super exclusive neighborhoods with a ton of larger homes set behind gates or farther from the street. Hillsborough is the second most expensive town in San Mateo County. It's 100% residential, so there's no businesses and no downtown. Hillsborough has the best of both worlds: privacy, close proximity to a ton of amenities in downtown Burlingame and other areas in San Mateo County. It's also pretty low density too. Burlingame, on the other hand, is super walkable. A lot of the town is flat. Of course, you have the hillier areas. It has a unique community feel, fantastic parks and facilities. There's tree-lined streets everywhere that are also very close and walkable to shops, restaurants, and schools. And actually, every neighborhood practically has its own park too. There's more parks than neighborhoods in Burlingame. We also have two vibrant downtown areas, and it's super conveniently located within the heart of Silicon Valley. In Burlingame, if you move here, a lot of your community will be through your neighbors and who's on your block, and then when your kids are in school, you'll have a whole second set of friends that way. In Hillsborough, because homes are so spread out from each other, your community is more through your school and less through your neighbors. And when it comes to Halloween, most of Burlingame is pretty trick-or-treatable. Like Easton Addition is at the top of a lot of people's lists, like Cabrillo, Cortez, right around there, and less so for Hillsborough. Burlingame has sidewalks everywhere, which is common in almost all other towns in the peninsula, but Hillsborough has very few sidewalks. There's even a coffee table book about Hillsborough called No Sidewalks Here. Hillsborough is more spread out with minimal street lighting, and sometimes the streets could be a little windier too. And that's kind of the name of the town, Hillsborough, so no surprise there. Because a lot of Burlingame is so flat, it's more bike friendly, and you'll see more kids walking to school in Burlingame than in Hillsborough. From an average price point, Hillsborough is a much more expensive housing market than Burlingame at the top end of the market. However, many people might be surprised to hear that there's a significant overlap in both markets in the $3 million to $8 million range, which is pretty much most of the market. So if that's your price range, you're gonna have a lot of fun choices to make. So if you're looking for a small and cute bungalow, that's gonna be unique to Burlingame, and you can't really get that in Hillsborough. Most lots in Hillsborough are at least half an acre, whereas in Burlingame, most are 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, unless you're in the Burlingame Hills neighborhood or Mills Estates, which is up by 280. I'm Raziel Ungar. I've ranked in the top 5 agents in San Mateo County. I've also been the #1 agent in Burlingame for 8 years. Every day, my team and I help buyers and sellers like you looking to make a smooth move into or within San Mateo County, and I'd love to be your Peninsula real estate resource. So in terms of location, Burlingame and Hillsborough are right next to each other. So Burlingame is a little bit more to the east and Hillsborough is a little bit more to the west, but they overlap borders in so many different places, and you can't really tell that you're going from Burlingame to Hillsborough or Hillsborough to Burlingame because it's so beautiful in all of these locations. Now, for freeway access, you have the Broadway exit at 101 and then Peninsula Ave in the south for Burlingame. And then for Hillsborough, you can also go through those 2 exits too, but you also have Truesdale, Black Mountain, Hain up at the top as well, just in the southern west part of the town. So Burlingame and Hillsborough price-wise overlap quite a bit, between about $3.5 and $7 million for both towns. Let me give you an idea on pricing in Hillsborough. Last year, the least expensive home that sold in Hillsborough was $2.7 million, and the most expensive was $17 million. But starting, you're gonna be about $3.5 to $4 million. The median home price last year was $5,250,000. In Burlingame last year, the lowest sales price was about $1 million, and the most was $6 million. All right, I wanna share with you what you can get at several different price points in Burlingame at $3.5 million, $5 million, $6 million, and $8 million on up. So for up to $3 million in Burlingame, you can get one of the best 3-bedroom homes, even in a flat walkable location, probably be about 1,700 square feet. Or in Mills Estates, for around $3 million, you can get a 2,000 square foot home on a flat lot with an attached 2-car garage. So you're gonna get a lot more value up in the hills. Now in Hillsborough, between $3.5 and $4 million, or probably closer to $4 million, you will be getting a house, but it would have minimal or no yard. It could need a ton of work, or it could be a tear down. However, there are some good options there, and I've done a few transactions in the mid 3s and low 4s. In the flats of Hillsborough, a half-acre tear down could be mid to high $5 million range. In the hills of Hillsborough, kind of closer to Skyline, like in the Carolines neighborhood, you could get an older but clean 1-level ranch-style home, sometimes in the low to mid $4 million range, although those can get up to mid $6 million range for a rancher in the Carolines on a flat half-acre. You might be able to hear the freeway in your backyard, so it just kind of depends on where you are, and that obviously affects value too. In Burlingame, at $5 million, you'd be getting pretty close to a new construction home in Easton Addition or Burlingame Park at around 3,000 square feet. You get an open floor plan, what I consider an A location, Well, now that I think about it, it'd probably be a little bit closer to $5.5 million, maybe even $6 million, but probably around there. If you were to get a little bit larger lot, like a 7,000 square foot lot, that would get you closer to $6 million for new construction. If it's a new house, it'd likely have an ADU. Most people who are doing new homes on their own, they're also putting in ADUs. Now in Hillsborough, once you get to $6 million on up, you can get an older home in a flatter area or halfway up the hill. It might need some work, but some will still have some pretty good square footage. In Burlingame, we don't really see a lot of homes over $6 million, though I've done a couple off-market transactions in the mid $6 million and $7 million range, which were record prices at the time in Burlingame Park. The most expensive home ever sold in Burlingame was on Pepper in the last couple months. That was on a pancake flat, 3/4 of an acre lot. That was about $8.5 million and it backed up to Hillsborough. Now there are homes in Burlingame that are actually worth more than $8 million. Those just haven't come on the market. In Hillsborough, if you want more than 5 bedrooms, like a 6 or 7 bedroom, there's a lot fewer of those, pretty much at all price points. But if you want one that's remodeled, you're gonna kind of need to start in the $8 million on up range, but probably even $10 million if you're wanting something that's like totally remodeled. All right, so now I wanna talk to you about who lives in these towns and what are some of the prices like. So in Burlingame, we have population here of about 30,000 people. There's 6,200 houses. The median sales price in Burlingame last year was $2.7 million. The average sales price was $2,850,000 with a price range of about $1.9 to $5.5 million. Burlingame is the perfect place for pretty much anyone, especially families, older couples, empty nesters, and folks who are retired. It's probably not a great place if you're a young professional in your 20s looking for nightlife. You'd probably want to live in San Francisco instead of Burlingame. A majority of people who are buying homes in Burlingame are a mix of professionals typically working in high tech, biotech, finance, and healthcare, which are our 4 biggest industries around here. And in Hillsborough, a majority of buyers will be more in tech and finance, but there's also many families with multi-generational wealth who've been here for a long time. I was born in Burlingame, and I love living here for so many reasons: the quality of life, the walkability, how friendly everyone is, access to amazing food, and everyone you meet pretty much has an interesting story. And the same you could say about Hillsborough too. In Hillsborough, the population here is about 11,000 people, and there's about 3,900 homes, with a median sales price last year of $5,230,000, an average sales price of $6 million, with a typical range of $4.5 million to $10 million on up. Like Burlingame, Hillsborough offers a similar mix. Just because of how expensive it is, you'll typically see more younger families in Burlingame than in Hillsborough, and this is just on average. You'll also see many Burlingame families choose to upgrade to Hillsborough, not because they're unhappy, but because they just want more space, which is hard to get in Burlingame with some of the lot sizes being a lot smaller than the typical half-acre lot in Hillsborough. Sometimes they'll give up a flat and walkable location in Burlingame and be more in the hills in Hillsborough, so it's a trade-off. Because of the community feel that Burlingame has, I've had several clients who bought in Hillsborough whisper to me things like, really feel like they're Burlingame people, but just want a little bit more space. And then once they move to Hillsborough, though, they're totally thrilled. Another reason people move to Hillsborough is for the smaller middle school. Hillsborough has 441 students at Crocker Middle School versus about 1,000 students at Burlingame Intermediate School. Now let me talk to you about some of the types of homes in here. Burlingame feels a lot more densely populated than Hillsborough. However, this is all relative, and it's really not that dense. It's just when you compare to Hillsborough just has so much more space. And sometimes I'll hear people say they feel like homes are a lot closer together in Burlingame if they come from somewhere where things are a lot more spread out. Burlingame has a good mix of homes with a variety of architecture though, and most homes are going to be between 40 and 70 years old, but just because they're older doesn't mean they're worse. It just means that Burlingame homes typically have been around for a while. Now you can find a lot of different ranch style homes, craftsman, Spanish, Mediterranean, and Victorian. And if you like charming older homes with original hardwood floors, arched doorways, and the occasional squeaky floor, Burlingame's going to check that box. If you like an open concept floor plan with the kitchen that flows into the backyard, Burlingame will have that too, but probably means it's a remodeled home at a higher price. Now in Hillsborough, because the lots are bigger, minimum half acre typically, it offers a lot more opportunities for more varied architecture. And many of the homes in Hillsborough are behind gates and give you a lot more privacy if that's kind of your preference. So it'd be the opposite of trick-or-treatable. The lot size, because like I said, it's minimum half acre, there's a few exceptions to that, like on Bailiana, there's a few smaller houses, but typically you're gonna get a ton more space. And in Hillsborough, the minimum square footage of home is gonna be usually at least 2,500 square feet. Now let's talk about the parks. Because Burlingame is a bigger town, we have about 17 parks, whereas Hillsborough just has a few, but Hillsborough is less populated, there's so much more space, and most homes kind of feel like they're a park anyways. You have 3 public elementary schools in Hillsborough, you have 6 public elementary schools in Burlingame, Both towns are amazing and they're regarded kind of at the top of the list. Hillsborough has per capita funding of about $15,000 per student per year. A lot of that comes from the state and of course property tax revenue. Burlingame is closer to $9,000 a year. Each town has an educational foundation. Burlingame has one, it's called the Burlingame Community for Education Foundation, which raises about $2 million a year. And the Hillsborough School Foundation raises a little over $3 million a year, which is used to supplement funds that come from the state to be used in the classroom. All right, so let's talk about public services. Burlingame and Hillsborough share a common fire department that's called Central County Fire. That was a merger that happened a few years ago where they brought the Burlingame and Hillsborough fire departments together. There are opportunities to combine it with other local cities, but no, Burlingame and Hillsborough just wanted to maintain one fire department just for the two towns. When we talk about libraries, Burlingame has two libraries, the main library in downtown Burlingame and also the eastern branch of the library. Hillsborough actually funds a third of the Burlingame Library budget and also contributes, I believe, about a third of the budget to the San Mateo Public Library. Now let's talk about the police departments. Burlingame and Hillsborough each have their own police departments, and I think residents all prefer this, which is nice. There's been opportunities, I believe, like I said, on fire where San Mateo and Millbrae over the years have tried to merge, and that would obviously create a lot more efficiencies, but people like having their small departments. Even in Hillsborough, if you're out of town, you can call the police department, ask them to come check on your home, which is amazing. All right, now I want to talk to you about one of the main differences between both towns, which is whether you want to be in a flatter area or a hillier area, because that drives value in a huge way. In Burlingame, you could go spend $4 or $5 million and be on a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot lot, and that would be your situation. However, if you want to be more up in the hills, you're going to get lower price per square foot for both towns, and you're going to be able to have a little bit more space, which I think is something that a lot of people want. But there's more demand for the flatter areas, so therefore price is going to be significantly higher. We're not talking like 100, 200 grand. We're talking like $1 or $2 million to get the same house in a flatter area as the same home in a hillier area for both towns. Some of the flatter areas in Burlingame are going to be Burlingame Gables, Burlingame Gardens, Lion Hogue, Burlingame Grove, Burlingame Village, Ray Park, Easton Addition, and Burlingame Park. And then the two hillier areas in Burlingame are going to be Mills Estates in the Burlingame Hills neighborhood. So in Hillsborough, if you're going to be in one of the hillier areas, that's going to be Sky Farm, Lakeview, or the Carolines. All the rest of the neighborhoods are going to be in the flatter areas or kind of like halfway up the hill, whereas you're going to be kind of a little bit farther away from Skyline. The neighborhoods in the flatter areas are going to be Ryan Track, Home Place, and a bunch of other neighborhoods, but you might not remember all those neighborhood names, but you kind of just want to think, okay, do I want to be in the flats or in the hillier areas? If you'd like to learn more about Burlingame or Hillsborough, check out this video. And if you'd like to learn more just about what it's like living in San Mateo County or thinking about making a move to here or within the county, I'd love an opportunity to be a resource for you. See you on the next video.